Meghan's PR was spinning so hard over the weekend, they'd win a gold, silver, and bronze for backflips. Plus, who won't be sharing Christmas spirits with the Wales family this year? Hello and welcome to Heirs and Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in California. This week, helping me tackle the latest news on the Prince and Princess of Wales in the UK is royal author and commentator Duncan Larcombe. Duncan, let's jump right in. Duncan, let's see, where do we start here with this Polo series? We've talked about it a little bit, but I don't think you and I had seen the trailer yet for the Polo series. The first thing I guess I would ask you is your reaction. Were you floored? Were you compelled to sit in front of your television and binge it for 6 hours?
Yeah, let's all sit back and see how the other half live, hey? £2 million a year to be a polo player around the world. It's not exactly going to bring Meghan and Harry back to the kind of ordinary man in the street. Let's be honest.
No, you're so right. So one of the articles that came out over the weekend, actually, let me just tell you what my theory is, and you tell me if you think I'm absolutely crazy. So on Friday, there was an exclusive in Page Six. And let me read the headline because it actually will make you cringe. Your body will the next time I see you, you're going to be in the fetal position. It says exclusive Meghan Markle set to sparkle in 2025 with cooking, gardening, and entertaining TV comeback and brand launch. We'll get into some of those details, but let me just clarify. There are little to no details. This exclusive is as hollow as a toilet paper roll. Now, this comes out on Friday here in the States, but on Saturday, this very savage a piece drops in the Times by Tom Sykes. Now, the title isn't as savage as the content, but it says, "Can Harry and Meghan's Polo series really win back Hollywood?" And within that article, they claim that Hollywood power players are basically slamming the door in Harry and Meghan's face today. There's no return on investment. People are no longer returning Meghan Markle's calls that used to champion the couple because they've just not proven themselves in the States. They seem to be difficult to work with. They lack creativity. And they've been handed a lot of money. And what have the results been? Nothing earth-shattering. One commercial success with the Netflix series where they destroy the royal family, but otherwise everything has seemed to fail. So my question to you is, we know Tom Sykes called Archewell for comment about his story, which is basically saying Harry and Meghan are on the decline. This Polo series is not likely to win over Netflix. Do you think that, because this is what I think that instead of responding to Tom Sykes' story, Meghan's team went to Page Six and said, "We're going to give you this exclusive, which is little to nothing," because they were trying to kill any interest in Tom Sykes' story with these teeny tiny little details about what to expect for Meghan Markle in 2025. Do you have an opinion? Am I crazy?
I don't think you're crazy, Kinsey. And if I did, I wouldn't tell you. No, I think, look, this is the big crux of the issue, isn't it? I mean, Harry and Meghan have a profile. They landed in California. They made headlines. They did the Oprah thing. Harry did his book, which came out at the start of this year, all based on attacks on the royal family, the rolling back of the curtain, if you like, that people are fascinated by. But do they actually care about anything other than that? And frankly, I don't even think Harry and Meghan appear in this next Netflix documentary series, and that, I don't want to be horrid, but are they just one-trick ponies? They can slag off the royals, roll back the curtain, create a great fuss, get huge publicity. Harry's book sold absolutely brilliantly because he was slagging off William and the king and his stepmother, his evil stepmother. Is there any more strings to their bow? And I think this probably is a big, big litmus test to whether or not they can do something successfully that actually doesn't involve them slagging off their Harry's family. Personally, I don't see it myself. I don't see why people would be interested in them unless they were doing that.
I think that one trick ponies is a great way to describe what we've seen from them so far. And I imagine that it is a reflection of interest in the show in general, the fact that it has very few YouTube views, the trailer. Like when I
Right.
saw the amount, we get more views on this channel than that trailer has gotten since I last looked. So I feel like that's a really bad omen to what kind of attention this is ultimately going to get when it premieres 1 week from today.
It's really not a very good sign, is it at all? I mean, the public, whether it be in America or back in the UK, how interested are they in the sport of kings in polo?
Well, yeah, but we are interested in it when they're there. But you're right. The lack of Prince Harry is incredibly damaging to the end result here. The lack of Prince, because I was even thinking, had Prince Harry, and maybe he does, but I did not see that in the trailer. Had he introduced the show with "This is the sport of kings," my grandfather Prince Philip taught me this at this age. I remember watching him. I remember admiring my father on a horse. If we had that kind of dialogue, there might be some interest. But here, let me read to you what this story says because this floored me. It says the trailer has added fuel to the Hollywood rumors that the executives at Netflix are not particularly happy with the documentary's laser focus on the Argentinian player Nacho. I don't know how to say his last name. I feel like I'm offending somebody if I slaughter it, so I'm just going to call him Nacho, who was once almost a big deal instead of Harry, who was once almost a big deal instead of Harry. So I died at that line. But then they say, you have to wonder if he failed to make it big 20 years ago, why make him the focal point of a lavish production today? Duncan, that is such a great point. I mean, everybody has their 15 minutes and then you kind of hang it up and go, well, that was great. And I have noticed a real push for Nacho here in LA over the last few weeks. They're definitely trying to make Nacho happen. Is Nacho going to happen?
Well, I can remember coming to we did a tour with Prince Harry and we went to Governor's Island in New York, where Harry played in a polo match. Nacho was there and lots of people were interviewing him. That was a long time ago. I mean, I don't think I want to add up the years, but it was about 2008. I'll let you into a secret. I've had to watch, because of my job following the Royals, I've had to watch many polo matches, and I physically cannot think of a more boring sport. It seems to have no tactics. It's just a load of posh people on very expensive horses whacking a ball around. And that really, I mean, there's a reason why we don't have polo on TV. People don't tune in to watch polo matches because I can promise you it is so dull. But people go because it's fashion and it's good to be seen there. Does that
But
work?
how does that translate? Like you said, how does that translate to TV?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so
Yeah.
you want to get dressed up and get hammered on a field, on a polo field. That's it's one thing for you to truly experience that. It's another to watch strangers that you don't care about. To your point, over the weekend, I had somebody, a celebrity contact. Well, I contacted her to wish her a happy Thanksgiving, but she was just listening to your podcast. Her son is a producer for reality television and a very successful producer for reality television. And she said that he pitched a polo show and it was rejected. They said it was too elitist. And she's like, who knows? Maybe it'll work out. But if this person who has had legitimate success, the type of success Harry and Meghan would envy in the reality space, was told absolutely not, too elitist, what are the odds that Harry's going to shoot to success with this project?
It really is one of the world's most elitist sports. I mean, as I say, I'm you probably guess I'm not a big fan of polo. I can't stand it. But you have to be so wealthy, like crazy wealthy, to even think about being a player that travels the world on some of the most expensive horses known to man. And they have to have 4 or 5 horses each, and each horse is worth hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's just out of touch. And if this is Harry and Meghan's way of saying, well, goodness knows what they're trying to say, but if they're trying to make out that this will appeal to a broader public, it will not do that. It will make them look as out of touch as they probably are.
I know that they don't want this, but there is and was a way for Harry and Meghan to give us better access to them and continue to protect continue to protect themselves. I mean, at the end of the day, the only commercial success they've had was the Harry and Meghan Netflix series, where they tore into Harry's family. But there was a way for Harry and Meghan to give us Harry and Meghan without giving us too much Harry and Meghan. And I think that their rejection of that, when that's so clearly what the people that signed them wanted, is part of the reason why Hollywood is angry with them, because they it's almost like you knew what you were signing up for. You're being stubborn, and that's not how this goes. Like, it's almost false advertising to say, yeah, you're gonna get us, and then be like, I'm not in the polo show.
I think you're right, and I think people should remember that when Harry and Meghan left the UK and they stopped doing full-time working as full-time working royals, whether they meant to do it or not, they sparked a popularity contest, and an Atlantic popularity contest between them, William and Kate. They were critical of William and Kate. They went absolutely guns blazing, and if they win that contest, fine. But these sorts of documentaries, which frankly will water down, I mean, it's not about Harry, it's not about Meghan, it's not some fly on the wall documentary about their lives. They are losing that contest, because this year we've had Kate with her cancer diagnosis, the bravery she's shown, how she's now reaching out to people and making, people with cancer diagnosis, doesn't matter whether it's you've got a week to live or you're going to die with this disease, it's fine, you're okay. Anything involving cancer is terrifying. And they are just not winning. They've lost. I'll say they've lost the popularity contest when it comes to going up against the Prince and Princess of Wales. And it was such a shame, because Harry actually is a fantastic guy with an awful lot to give. Meghan, she had the opportunity of this Meghan Markle, the Markle Sparkle. She could have been something so much more than she is. So now it's almost like they're scraping the barrel, if you ask me, Kinsey. And I'll probably get in an awful lot of trouble for saying that, but that's how I feel.
I think the audience is probably going to agree with you. If we're looking at the demographics that watch this show, I think you're going to have quite a few fans for saying that. I will move on to the Markle Sparkle. I saw somebody in the comments say, imagine being 60 years old and still trying to run with the Markle Sparkle narrative. Like, they're joking that this is always going to be Meghan grabbing for the Markle Sparkle headline. But before we go there, I did want to ask you, because the last time I spoke to you, we had a giggle over Forbes honoring Prince Harry's Travelist company for minimizing travel emissions and, celebrating Prince Harry. And we kind of joked and like, what a hypocrite. But I was watching the trailer and absolutely floored when they showed the guy saying that he travels to Argentina twice a week to play polo. Now, I don't know where he lives, but it sounds like he doesn't live close to Argentina. That does not reflect well on these two people that are trying to tell us that we need to change the way that we live to improve the planet.
This was the couple that not that long ago said you should only have 2 children because 3 is bad for the environment. Yeah, if you put yourself out there in the way that they have, you open yourself up to criticism, and using private jets and flying around the world, and then doing a documentary about people who basically fly around the world and do some stuff with very expensive horses. I mean, frankly, you're going to lose your authenticity, your credibility. And I think it is about credibility if you're a royal. And frankly, even if you are an A-list celebrity in Hollywood, I think people have to buy into what you're saying, and they have to think, yeah, okay, there's good points there. We need to make a difference. It's pie in the sky stuff because they just do what they want and they say what they think they should say. And people aren't stupid, are they? They pick up on it.
Yeah, if you want us to buy your cookbook, if you want us to buy your pots, pans, or tea towels, ultimately, you have to have some credibility. We have to trust you. We have to believe in you. We have to be emotionally invested in you. And you jeopardize your credibility when you live opposite to what you preach. And I don't think we would be as judgmental or as fixated on the hypocrisy surrounding Harry and Meghan if they just didn't rattle so much. I mean, there definitely is a feeling that they're talking down to you when they talk to us, that they are smarter than we are, that they know better. And we sense that, and then they do the opposite of what they're telling us to do. And it's just really hard to digest. And hopefully, the reason we haven't heard very much from Meghan recently is because the new PR team that they hired in 2024 has given her similar notes.
Well, absolutely correct. I mean, from a PR point of view, I don't know. I can't speak for how it is over in the States, but basically, when Harry and Meghan got married, Harry, after the Queen, was the most popular royal. People loved him, properly loved him. He was awesome. And now people see him as this deluded royal that, frankly, he's lost that popularity. If you employed a PR expert, a top expert, one of the best in the world, and you said to them, I want to transform my image from really popular to really unpopular. Can you put in a few measures and can we do this campaign? I don't think there is a PR expert in the world that's gifted enough to actually deliver that. There has been a huge fall from grace. And the more they've fallen, unfortunately, and I say this still with real fond memories of Harry, having covered him since he was a teenager. As they've gone down the lift shaft of popularity, all it's done is rise up William and Kate, and William and Kate are now more popular than they've ever been.
Yes.
And a lot of that, I mean, he talks about being the spare, but wow, he's played a blinder in terms of looking after his brother and promoting him. It's just been shocking to watch.
Yeah, you're so right. Can I ask you a question I was thinking about? I keep saying we're about to move on to the next story, and I just keep pulling you back in. One thing that I was thinking about, because I just talked to a British outlet that it's putting together like a big documentary on the royals, and they asked me why I felt like my country soured against Harry and Meghan. And as I thought about it, I mean, I truly think the Oprah Winfrey interview happened. The accusations were so damaging that if you did question it, you were considered a racist. So that was already a delicate
Mm.
that was already a challenging time as a commentator, as a journalist. You had to be delicate surrounding the accusations that Prince Harry later denied were ever made when he was talking to Tom Bradby,
Yes.
when they alleged that there was a royal racist. So, I don't think that the Oprah interview damaged them that much at the time. There was a lot of sympathy there, despite the fact that we were all united in fear over the plague that was currently taking place while they were sitting in the backyard of a Montecito mansion complaining about tiaras and toddlers' titles. But I really feel like when the Oprah interview became damaging for them was when we lost the Queen in the
Mm.
States, and people realized here that Harry and Meghan made the last few years of the Queen's life very difficult and full of grief and hurt. Would you agree that the Queen's death really escalated hostilities towards Harry and Meghan?
I think one of the biggest reasons why the kind of Oprah Winfrey stuff got soured was the fact that William and Kate were not in a position to reply.
Yeah.
They weren't able to say, or the royal family in general, frankly, because it was an accusation thrown at the whole family. Someone in this family is racist. The fact that the royals don't reply to stuff like that really weaken the argument. It's almost like scoring a sucker punch, but the crowd don't like that. They're like, that's not, come on, that's not a proper way to fight. And I think that was a major aspect. But when the Queen died, I mean, it's very difficult because Harry had a very close relationship with the Queen. She had a huge soft spot for him. There's no question about that. But again, because he'd attacked and Meghan had attacked the institution, that frankly was an attack on the Queen in what turned out to be the last few months of her life. And I think, timing is everything. I just think that went down like a cup of bad sick, frankly, with members of the public. It certainly did over in Britain, and maybe it did in America, because the
You
people adored the Queen.
absolutely still to this day. Do you believe that they did get permission from the Queen to name their child Lilibet?
No, not at all. No, I don't. I think that was a deeply personal name that was given to the Queen by her father. And I think that, I read in one of the royal books, and I really believe this, is that the Queen lived with all these palaces and castles and gold crowns and all this stuff that the Queen has. But she didn't own any of that. She just owned a few things that were close to her. And one of them was her little pet name from her father, which Prince Philip, her husband, used as well. And I think it's absolutely true that it was almost offensive that was sort of dug up at a time, in terms of context, when Harry and Meghan were throwing truth bombs over the Atlantic like
Truth.
some kind of crazed warmonger.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about Meghan Markle briefly. Again, this is a Page Six article, which is one of the biggest and best gossip sites here in the States. The New York Post, one of, very famous paper out of New York, obviously. And Page Six with the exclusive Meghan Markle set to sparkle in 2025 with cooking, gardening, and entertaining TV comeback and brand launch. I love this line. Meghan Markle will make her return to public life with a bang in the new year, Page Six can reveal. One Hollywood insider told us they even heard rumors the brand had become a SHI you know what show behind the scenes, but their source in the know told them she's been keeping her cards close to her chest. As far as Meghan being quiet, she's been in the background working on her entrepreneurial efforts. Both the Netflix project and her brand will come out within the same timeline in the new year. It's going to be a good year for Meghan.
Mm.
Specifically, she spent the majority of the year doing work behind the scenes to launch a project in the first few months of 2025. Now, someone pointed out to me, and I had forgotten this, but I think it's a great point. A little over a year ago, Meghan was on the Variety Power of Women carpet, teasing exciting new projects for Meghan and Archewell. That's been more than 12 months ago. When does the teasing new projects end? And when do they actually show us any sort of? I mean, I feel like with Meghan, it's a constant tease. Meghan signs with William Morris Endeavor. What has she done with William Morris Endeavor since she signed with one of the biggest agencies in LA? Where is her Limonada podcast? It just seems like a lot of hype and very little, actual product.
Well, I mean that's true, but hype is still a skill, and bringing out the hype before she does something which, frankly, lands like a lead balloon. I mean, there's still a skill, isn't it? Let's be honest. Um, I'm encouraged by that kind of suggestion that next year, 2025, is going to be this big, wonderful year when Meghan really nails it and they start making money. Because if they can start making money through her genius, they don't have to make money out of slagging off the British royal family. And maybe that will give Harry a route back in to actually making friends with the very, very lovely people that he or the people that loved him so much that he has, well, frankly, thrown under a bus for money. So I don't know. I think, of course, Meghan's going to do the spin and it's all going to be very sophisticated. Whether people are going to want to spend X amount of, I don't know how much is her jam, it sounds, or her honey, it sounds very expensive. But almost you want Meghan to be successful so that they both keep their blooming mouths shut.
You're making a good point because in every interview Meghan does, she seems to tease that there's more that she could say and that she doesn't. In the Cut interview, she made sure we knew that she had discovered some diaries she kept in Frogmore Cottage. She also mentioned that she did not sign a non-disclosure agreement, which is so weird to mention, when she exited the royal family as a senior member. That's a bizarre thing to point out.
And of course, on that vein, in Oprah, she didn't actually name the royal racists, and she said she never would. But
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point. And then in a CBS interview she did maybe a month or two ago here, when they were talking about the launch of a parents network, a parent support network for children that had been bullied online, she was talking about her own mental health and what went on when she was in the royal family. And she said, I barely scratched the surface. So that some people interpreted that as there's more that I could explore there. So if she has success doing something completely unrelated, whether it's selling a cookbook or talking to friends around a dinner table and people watching that on Netflix, that might lure her into focusing all of her energy there versus continuing to reveal anything about her time within the royal family. It's so bizarre to me to think that she's not been a senior royal member, senior working royal member of the royal family now longer than she was.
Oh, but much longer. Yeah, yeah.
The chaos that has happened, it's hard to believe that somebody could spend such a brief time with Diana. Wasn't she there for 16 to 20 years before what hit the fan?
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's the issue for them, is that their association with the British royal family as a married couple is now less than it has been since they've walked away from it. So what they know, they don't know anything. Harry
Yeah.
can't get hold of his father if he rings him, and and Meghan, frankly, the couple are estranged from the whole institution. for very understandable reasons, I guess. But I think I think with Meghan, she's very ambitious. She's going to try and make the most out of what she can. And as I say, I think this is a make or break year for her next year, because if these things don't land, if they don't prove popular, what else has she got?
A Lemonada podcast, and we know that that contract is drastically different than the one she signed with Spotify by, millions of dollars less different. I I was just about to ask you that, so I'm glad you went in this direction. Uh, Hypothetically, Harry and Meghan have launched Harry and Meghan, huge success for Netflix. Without a doubt, Netflix says, we're proud of this project. Live to Lead, total dud. No one acknowledges that it ever existed. Heart of Invictus, sweet. No one acknowledges that it ever existed. Pearl, canceled. Polo, so far, not so good when it comes to critical reaction. Can Meghan and Harry lure Netflix into another contract or relationship with two successes out of the ones I just mentioned? Let's say people love Meghan's show, hypothetically, and Harry and Meghan were really good for them. Is that going to convince Netflix that there is still room to grow? Does Netflix see the value in partnering with Meghan through the retail aspect? If they partner with her through the retail aspect, does it only make sense for them to continue to have some sort of content relationship with them, but lowering that number when it comes to those deals don't exist anymore. The one that Harry and Meghan got, in fact, they are considered one of the worst deals in Hollywood because Netflix got the short end of the stick. Spotify, they cut bait. They had egg all over their face. So do you think that Meghan's show could be so successful for them that they see the value in continuing that relationship, or do they quietly decide to no longer work with each other and hope that it doesn't hit the papers, even though everybody's going to be chomping at it to get that info?
Wow, what a question. No, I think that these deals are not always going to be on the table, and there is a sort of feeling, and I don't want to sound nasty because, as I say, I like Prince Harry. I know he's a decent guy, but there is a feeling that they're kind of sipping drinks in the last chance saloon. It doesn't work out for them with these projects that are not directly about slagging off the royal family. Then what is their value? What is their worth? What do they bring to the party? And I mean, Harry has grown up being lauded by the public. It's all he knows. It's. I was once in a pub in England with Harry, and I was having a conversation with him. We were talking for about an hour, and all the time we were talking, people that were walking nearby were shouting, "Harry, Harry, Harry!" He was like this rock star royal. Now, that's all he knows. And I guess perhaps at some point the reality is going to hit him where he thinks, actually, people don't really care about me anymore. I don't know. But with Meghan trying to do these different types of projects, they really have to work. They have to have something about them which is more than just, oh, it's the Duchess of Sussex. There has to be something more. Because the public will vote with their feet, and people will either watch it or they won't, and they'll criticize it or they won't. So for Harry's mindset, that's going to be if it were to be that these things do fail, they do flop, they're not popular. Harry's not somebody who's grown up knowing what that actually feels like, and I think for me, I slightly worry about when that realization hits. I'm not sure how he'll be able to handle it.
I think you're right. I think that he has had a hard time processing this I think you called it a fall from grace earlier. I think he's having a hard time processing that because we did love him so much and we loved Meghan.
Mm,
I have so many people that disagree with me and they say, I never liked her. I always saw this coming. I didn't. I thought
I
she,
didn't either.
I loved
Absolutely
her. I
right.
thought she was
Yeah.
precious. And my attitude towards her changed when I felt like she was being destructive towards the royal family over hurt feelings. And I
Yeah.
felt like her reactions were extreme and very damaging all over ego. Like just like she did not, it's my opinion that when she married into this family, she had her own agenda. And she didn't realize that it was her job to support Prince William and Catherine and to support King Charles and Queen Camilla. At one point, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. She was there to support them to ensure the future of the monarchy. And I don't think she was aware of that, or I don't think that that's the job she wanted to do. I think she wanted to go off and do this for her brand and do that for Harry's brand and, perhaps get a free $6,000 dress here and perhaps do a
Yeah.
voiceover here because she wanted to walk this carpet. And I just don't think that she realized that her job was a supporting role, literally, not the IMDb kind.
Mhm.
And that really, I think we watched the world's most aggressive hissy fit in 2020.
That's a great way of putting it, although that would get me in trouble, so I don't agree.
No, it's okay.
Um,
I said it, not you. You're
no,
fine.
yeah. I laughed. I shouldn't have. I think you're right. For me personally, absolutely. I wrote about the Markle Sparkle, the incredible moment at her wedding where she walked over the bones of King Henry VIII as a mixed race woman. It was like she was bringing the royal family at least 25 years further forward, and it was something to be celebrated, and it really was in the British media. It really was celebrated. I'm not making that up. It's
Yeah.
actual fact. But then we had Harry turn around and say, well, everyone's been racist towards Meghan. She's been attacked in the British press. And people, honestly, colleagues of mine, people from highbrow newspapers and news outlets were, what's he talking about? We're not attacking her. We've never attacked her. And frankly, she wasn't happy within the confines of the royal family. She didn't understand it. I think Harry should hold his hands up to a lot of that, because if you're bringing a woman in and you're marrying her, he should have at least given her some sort of understanding of what she might expect. He just went on this tirade against the press, and the press were like, well, we've been nice. What more do you want?
Right.
And that's the reality of it. If you had time, you could go through cuts of newspaper articles and you would see it. It wasn't an attack on her. People loved Harry. He fell in love with this woman who was an actress, so someone who'd done something in her own right. And the fact she was mixed race was like this huge bonus. It was like, this is great. This is what the royal family need. The Markle Sparkle. But Harry's
And little
gone
did we
everywhere
know
because he hates the press. So
how pathetic that none of us, and there were some people that said it, but most of us weren't.
very few.
Most of us were totally uh, not turned off by the fact that she had no relatives at her wedding. I mean, that was a huge red flag. If she'll do it
It
to
was,
her own family, she'll do it to his family. And
he has.
we should have been aware. And we were just, and that is to me further proof that we loved her because we ignored that because we just loved her so much that we wanted to pretend that it wasn't weird that none of her family was at the wedding except for her mom.
But I can remember writing a piece, sorry, Kinsey, about where Meghan didn't turn up to a royal wedding until after, she
Oh, it was
wasn't.
Pippa's, right? It was Pippa's. She
Yeah,
didn't want to distract from it.
yeah,
Yeah.
Pippa's wedding, but she didn't turn up because, and I remember writing a piece about how great this is, someone with enough insight to think, well, we don't want to steal the limelight and make it all about me.
Yeah.
How wrong was I? I mean, we wrote nice things, and Harry has done nothing but attack the press. And I've worked with some royal correspondents that have covered it for long enough to know that we really were on Harry's side. We really weren't trying to assassinate her character. She has assassinated her own character and become an incredibly unpopular person. And where are we? She still doesn't speak to nearly anyone in her family apart from her mum. And Harry doesn't talk to anyone in his family. And
Yeah.
that's the Markle sparkle. It's toxic. It seems to be toxic.
Yeah, don't eat the glitter. Don't eat the glitter is what we're trying to tell you. Don't do it.
No,
Well, what I
sorry, I'm getting too cross. You need to
no,
calm.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But it's a great segue because I think basically what you're saying is Harry doesn't like to be held accountable by the media. And sometimes some of the criticism that he really lashes out about is when they are held accountable. And there's a scandal that's been simmering over the
Mm.
last year. And that's this African Parks drama. Prince Harry was the president. He was invited to be on the board of directors, which is, I guess, a promotion recently. And what's been going on with the African Parks charity is, the Mail on Sunday investigated this. And Tony Blair's wife's company is now doing an independent investigation for African parks. But stories of rangers torturing and abusing individuals that and locals, indigenous people, locals that are trying to utilize these pieces of land that have been in their family for generations and have been where they hunt, where they live. And some of the stories are absolutely horrible. A recent one is about a woman that was trampled by some of these guards and she lost her unborn baby. We don't have to get into the details because they're yucky, and I want to ask you about Christmas. So I'm so sorry I've kept you for so long.
Yeah.
But talk to me about Harry's silence. He said to Anderson Cooper, "Silence is betrayal," and he is not reacting to these stories. When he went to New York for an African Parks meeting during the UN Climate Week, that was the only event he did that did not allow media in. To me, it's not a great look that he is refusing to address this,
Mm.
despite the fact that they expect their independent investigation to wrap in 2025. Should he at least not say, "I'm very concerned about these allegations and I am personally looking into them"?
I think that he's probably been advised to say nothing until after the investigation. I think once the investigation concludes, depending on what it finds, I think Harry has to say something because, you know, you associate yourself with all these good causes. And let's be honest, when you're operating in parts of Africa, for example, it is tough. He can't be responsible for the behavior of everybody within an organization, but equally he can't be separate from some of these very, very serious allegations. And I think after, they say early 2025 we should hear back. I think if Harry's silent, then he'll probably be coming in for some criticism. I think he needs to. You can't just get involved with these organizations and then step back like it doesn't matter when the organizations are in the spotlight and are under criticism.
That's a great point. So the clock is ticking basically. Before we make an official judgment, maybe we should wait until that official investigation is concluded. And hopefully, unlike the Palace bully report that they did around Meghan Markle, we'll actually have access to that investigation.
Yeah, the report that never reported.
Exactly. It never saw the light of day. I've always felt like that potentially was. I know that it's been reported that that was a gift to Meghan from the Queen and Prince Charles at the time. Basically, we no longer want to stir the pot. We're going to put this under lock and key. But I've always felt like potentially from Prince William's standpoint, it was like, don't mess with me. I have a bully report in the vault. you know?
And you're probably right in that assessment. I think.
All right, let's talk about Prince William and his relationship with Prince Harry, because People magazine is reporting that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were excluded. This is like file under duh, excluded from the royal family's Christmas plans this year. I don't know how familiar you are with this, but when it comes to U.S. media, People magazine basically works as a press release service for Harry and Meghan. Now they've befriended Us Weekly. We know they sometimes work with Page Six. They have their favorite outlets.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this story is coming from someone close to Harry and Meghan. What is the objective of us knowing they weren't invited for Christmas? We didn't think they would be invited for Christmas. This was a very traumatic year for the royal family. Why would they want the chaos of Harry and Meghan at a time that's supposed to be about peace and healing and resting and gearing up for the next year?
There was I had more chance of being invited to the Sandringham thing this year than Harry and Meghan, and believe you me, that was a very outside chance. No, they were never going to be invited there. If they'd expressed a wish that they'd like to have gone, then potentially I think the doors would have been flung open to them. I think. I mean, William might have had a word or two to say about that. But no, they haven't been there. Is it 6 years, or this is the
Yeah,
sixth
yeah.
that they haven't been at Sandringham? Sandringham, for those that don't know, is the gathering of the family. It's one of the most important gatherings of the royal family in the year, frankly, particularly when the Queen was still alive. But it seems like King Charles is continuing that thread where the family all get together, and it must be full of kids now. I mean, I've lost count of how many great grandchildren are, there's lots of kids there. It will be a fun family occasion. So for Harry and Meghan to not be invited, I think it depends how cynical you are to say whether or not, they've deliberately leaked it saying, oh, we haven't been invited. But frankly, they were never going to be invited. And if they had been, they were never going to go.
Yeah.
So, you can take that whichever way you want. If that's spin from the couple, if you're cynical, then maybe. But in reality, it was never going to happen.
Yeah, I'd like to believe that they've been told to move beyond the victim mentality, but then I hear stories like this and I'm like, are we still there? Because that was very popular in the United States for the last few years. Like it was your popularity was based on how victimized you were recently. Victimhood enhanced your credibility. People wanted to put a camera in your face, and you get more clicks and likes on social media. And I definitely think they rode that train for quite some time, but it ultimately backfired. I would like to ask you. You mentioned Prince William might be the one to put his foot down and would be the one that would block that invitation. Prince William's role within the royal family, what is it like today? Have you been impressed by him over the last 12 months, knowing that around this time last year, his wife was probably confiding in him that she was ill?
Yes, I mean, every so often, every few months, opinion polls come out where they ask the public about who's their favourite royal, who's their least favourite royal, etc., etc. And whilst it's been a terrible year for William, with his father and his wife both battling cancer, ironically, the plus side of that is that the couple, William and Kate, are more popular now with the British public than they've ever been.
Wow.
They are absolutely flying high. I think the bravery shown by Kate, so many people can identify with that scare. As I think I said earlier on, cancer can mean you've got a medical thing that needs to be sorted out, or it can be a death sentence. You don't know when they say that C word to you. So it's an incredibly frightening, daunting thing to face. And I think the public have really rallied and supported around William and Kate in particular. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those paradoxes. You look back on 2024, been a terrible year for William and Kate, but actually, it's been an incredible year for them in terms of how the public are warming even more towards them.
And probably when it comes to just realizing it's us against the world, it's us forever, because those scares can really, I mean, they're make or break for a relationship. Somebody either says, let's go, we're going to do this, or they're terrified. When it comes to Prince William as the future king, did you see some of those characteristics this year?
I thought one of the telling things from this year was the fact that William put Kate first and
Mm.
put family first, and there were, it wasn't like he carried on, keep calm and carry on, whilst his wife was suffering at home. He cancelled a lot of engagements. He simply refused to do them in a very gracious way. I think that's really helped William because it's, in terms of the eyes of the public, it's shown that William puts his wife first, puts his family first. And it's not many generations of the royal family where you have to go back into the archives and find examples of where royals have been criticised for really putting royal duties first and forgetting all about the fact they've got children or a wife or whatever it might be. So I think William's handling this year, whilst it's been very difficult for him, clearly, I think he's done it with some real dignity and grace. And yeah, they missed a lot of engagements, but I think the public really accepted that as necessary. So again, these things are not, you can only deal with what comes in front of you, frankly. And I think William and Kate have dealt this year really brilliantly with what they've had thrust in front of them.
Last question, and thank you so much for your time. You just reminded me of the fear that went through the media and commentators when
Yeah.
Prince William canceled going to his godfather's funeral. Do you remember that? I mean,
Mm.
my phone blew up. What could be happening behind the scenes that Prince William would not attend a funeral? And it's a few days or weeks. I mean, it's a very short amount of time between him missing the funeral that Catherine releases her video revealing that she has cancer.
Yes.
Do you remember reading the news that Prince William wasn't attending the funeral? And do you remember what your instinct was there, that he would miss such a big event, that such a, and it's bizarre because there's duty here and
Mm.
there's family here.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose with hindsight's an easier way of looking back at that moment. When I first heard that, I thought, oh my goodness, what are we not being told here? How serious is this for Kate? But I think with hindsight, looking back on it, I think it was just a demonstration of where William's priorities were, and he was absolutely going to be there for his wife and be there for his three children. I mean, I might be completely wrong, but
No, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you said that, because I remember at the time we kept having to acknowledge this pre-planned, I think is the word they used, this
yeah,
pre-planned abdominal surgery. And I was just so sick of having to say, like, she is recovering from abdominal surgery. She owes us nothing. Can we just not allow somebody's body to heal? It felt so tedious having to constantly say, like, well, how quickly are you out of bed after somebody cuts you open? My God. But the internet gossip had become so toxic, and the internet gossip had become so, it was bleeding into mainstream media, which I had not seen before in such a frightening capacity. I mean, remember in Mexico, a woman reported that her sources said that Catherine was in a coma. I mean,
Yeah.
and then I was having to acknowledge that on TV, and I'm trying to say that's absolutely crazy. So yeah, you're right. It's such a reflection of Prince William's dedication to his family, and knowing that his priorities are there make him a much more likable character, and you are more invested in not only his family's success, but in his success as a monarch.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. And I think what we saw this year was the final death of the Queen's mantra, never explain, never complain. I think what we saw was Kate was forced to explain. And to some extent, King Charles was forced to explain. They didn't complain, but
No.
they had to explain. And I think in the days of social media and conspiracy theories and trolls and everything that came out, I had friends that said, "Look, is it true Kate's dead?" And I'm like, well, no, she wouldn't. If she was dead, we would know. They
Yeah,
wouldn't be.
how would we any of us cover that up? That I remember those too. I had those people
And
too.
why would?
Yeah, why would we? There's nothing in it for us. That was a crazy time. I'm
But it, but
so
it,
glad it's over.
oh, yeah, it's good. But it did force them to explain. And
Hmm.
that's a bit of a sea change for the Royals in this day and age. They can't just be there aloof. We don't have to answer the press's questions. We don't have to explain anything to the public. We're royals. I think that's changed. 2024 changed that forever, which is probably quite a good move, quite a good step, probably.
Yeah, yeah. No, we'll see. But they definitely were like, you know what though? Harry and Meghan have the complaining all set. So we're just going to be over here explaining, but we'll let them continue with the complaining. Duncan Larcombe, you were such a fun guest today. Thank you for hanging out with
My
me.
absolute pleasure.
I
Thank you.
mean, I sent you like 3 talking points, and we just created an incredible episode of Heirs and Spares. I'm impressed with us.
Fantastic. I enjoyed it.
Very little content, very little prep, but we nailed this episode. I hope you're as excited as I am.
I am. Thanks, Kim.
All right, agree with us, disagree with us, let us know in the comments below, although we prefer people that agree with us. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you again next time.